Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Y'all know what it is. Welcome to Basketball Heads Live, the podcast. Want to wish everybody happy Black History Month. We towards the end of it, but every year I like to bring you guys a special, something classic, something memorable, and something that can kind of educate you at the same time. Tonight, you will receive all of that and then some. If this is your first time to the podcast, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on TikTok. I'm on all platforms. You heard? So listen. Welcome to Basketball Heads Live. I am your host, Glenn Poole Harding. And oh boy, we have a great episode for you. I want to say hello to everybody on Instagram. Hello to everybody on Facebook. What's up, my people on YouTube? Telling y'all now, y'all better sit back, get your popcorn. I'm going to give you some time, right? Because this is going to be a goodie right here. I remember reading this book about 10, 12 years ago. Maybe around that much. It's been a minute. I think I read it when it first came out. And it blew my mind. Literally. If you're a lover of basketball, if you love the NBA, if you grew up watching the Globetrotters, you don't want to miss this. The uncut, raw truth will be broadcasted tonight. Again, if you love basketball, if you are a fan of the NBA and the Globetrotters, you want to stick around. Because in honor of Black History Month, I bring to you another classic. Stick around because you'll be given a great history lesson on the NBA, Globetrotters, and the struggles of Black people trying to play a game that we all know and love. With saying that, this basketball head is the author of the book Basketball Slave, dedicated to his father, Andy Johnson. The author writes, if most of the best Black basketball players in the early 50s from around the country could not fully participate in the NBA, where do you think they played? This book is the heart-wrenching account of a young boy who became a man through the lessons of basketball. He grew up watching his family work in the cotton fields of Louisiana and began playing basketball barefoot in the streets of North Hollywood, California. As a high school basketball phenom, his education was undervalued. He was sent to a major university without graduating high school. Did y'all hear what I said? He was sent to a major university without graduating high school. While enrolled, Andy's college transcript was manipulated to meet the NCAA guidelines, and he was given a course load that would never lead to a degree. Finally, he was sold on the professional basketball auction block 3 times with no ability to negotiate his pay or where he could play. it shows that players such as LeBron, Kobe, Jordan, and Magic came along at the right time. Andy the Enforcer was that dominant player in the 1950s. Globetrotters, Philadelphia Warriors, Chicago Packers, and the Eastern League. Now, for some of you youngsters out there, the Philadelphia Warriors became the Philadelphia 76ers, and then the Warriors kind of took their name and to the West Coast, became the Golden State Warriors. And the Chicago Packers became the Chicago Bulls. And they probably got their name from the Green Bay Packers from out in Wisconsin, over on that side. And the Eastern League, well, that was like the ABA of the 70s. Well, ABA is still around to today, so salute to them. But unfortunately, he came along at a time when the black basketball players were barely accepted and not allowed to play freely in the NBA. Overcoming many obstacles, Johnson turned every devastating event into another opportunity by staying positive in the game of life. Andy Johnson is the subject of the 2010 biography called Basketball Slave. The book was written by his son, who believed his father had been exploited throughout his athletic career on account of his ethnicity. So, without further ado, help me welcome to the show, author and son of Globetrotter legend and former NBA player. Tonight, we just gonna say legend, because if he was allowed to play the game the way that he knew he could play, and they allowed that, he would have showcased his talents and been in the NBA Hall of Fame. So without further ado, let me bring on my next guest, my guy, Marco Polo Johnson.
Y'all ready?
Y'all ready?
Yes. You have just stepped out into the world of chaos, where everybody goes hard. Come on. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Or go home. Never back down. You gotta hold your own. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. East Coast. Go hard. West Coast. Go hard. Midwest. Go hard. Dirty. Hurry up, everybody. Get online, buy your tickets, cause the game about to start.
What's up, Polo? How you doing, brother?
I'm wonderful. I got to say, first of all, let me start off by saying this is such a blessing. Listen, peace, love, and blessings to all the listeners out there. You know, me being on your show at this time, it can't be coming from up above. You know, first of all, thank you for having me during this time of Black History Month. And also shout out to my guy, Attica, for linking us back together to put this show on tonight.
That's
so
right.
Just thank everybody out there.
No doubt. And Attica is a filmmaker, author. Y'all can pick up his book, Brooklyn Bred.
Yes.
All right.
I got it. I got mine.
For sure. So look, we gonna jump right into this, brother, because like I told you, and I told the audience, I read that book, man, and it blew my mind. I could not put it down. And again, that book is so good. Once I gave it to a friend. He passed it to someone else. That person passed it to somebody else, and that book been traveling around the world. And Polo was just telling me, he was like, "Yo, I've heard that story so many times, man, and I know it's true because the way it affected me. I found out so much information about the NBA, the early NBA, the Globetrotters, and just how Black people was treated back in those days through sports, right? We already know just through society, but in sports, everything supposed to be a level playing field, and things wasn't that way back then. So tonight, we're going to jump right into the story, man. And with the question I like to ask everybody when they come on the show is, who introduced you to the game?
My father. That's who introduced me, not knowing who he was. I mean, I'm a little kid, he gave me basketball. He used to go to the court with me. All that know out there that's played with me before, they know, I'm sure, a few things. One of them is my jump shot. So, but nevertheless, yeah, it was my father, man. He introduced me. Yeah, just like that.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Philadelphia. I'm homegrown Philly town. I ended up going to school in New York, college. My first year, I played for Concordia College out in Bronxville. And then after that, I switched over to State University of New York at Old Westbury. And that's where I graduated from. I graduated a science degree, biochemistry, to be exact.
Okay, so you play high school ball and all that.
Yep, I played a year in high school. Played a couple years in high school. Played a year at Concordia. And as funny as it was, I didn't really plan on playing at Westbury. I just went, by that time, I was strictly just trying to get out. And I ended up going out for tryouts and saw my name on the made a list. And I'm like, oh man, I'm a senior. I'm trying to graduate with a science degree. Now I'm on the ball team. So that's how it kind of ended up.
Okay.
But it was only 1 year I played.
Got you. What was life like for Mark as a youngster growing up in Philly?
Well, you have to understand, I grew up at a time when, really the only friends you had was the friends you had on the block. It was not traveling all over the world. I mean, all over different neighborhoods. It wasn't Facebook, Instagram. You didn't have 1,000 friends, and it was just a few. So it was an intimate situation. We were one of the first only Black families in what was called Mount Airy at the time, section of Philadelphia. There was another Black family not too far by the name of Guy Rogers. You can look him up. He's an NBA Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But we kind of grew up. Our families grew up probably because my father and Guy played at the Warriors together. So just close knit family. I'm the youngest of 6. I have 3 step. My mother was previously married, and 3 from my father. So 6 of us, youngest of 6. Always tell them I was last on the lap. They was all jealous of me. So, but nevertheless, yeah, I had more opportunity. But again, at that time when I was growing up, my father's career had kind of, settled down. So I wasn't around in his prime time.
Well, you guys were like the Brady Bunch, man. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. We were the Black Brady Bunch.
Right.
Boy, girl.
See? How do I know that, man? I do my research, bro. Trust me. Salute to the #1 basketball head. My guy Ayatollah Beats, always in the building, always representing. Now I have to cut my phone off because now people are gonna start calling me because they see me on air.
Okay.
Come join me. Come join the live. Salute to my brother Bullhead, always in the building. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah. So you guys growing up in Philadelphia, just one of two black families in this neighborhood. Um, did you notice the difference in your area and other areas where there probably was predominantly more black people?
Absolutely. So this is how it kind of unfolded. My mother was a social worker in Philadelphia. So she was in the hood, and we took us to the hood with her. So the hood was not strange to me growing up at all. I mean, it was a situation where it made me feel grateful and appreciative for my parents, because unfortunately fortunately I can't tell that story that I didn't have a father, he wasn't around. My mother, I can't tell that story. I can relate to it because my mother's social work for 30 years in Philadelphia. So, and with all nationalities, from, the Philippines when they first start coming over in the late 70s to, and, people that grew up, projects, the whole 9 yards. So, and they both taught me a place of giving and compassion and caring for other people other than yourself. So that's my story in kind of in a nutshell, with, growing up in, the area and how I moved throughout Philly.
So as you start to get older and get introduced to the game by your dad, and you start to love the sport, did he sit down and tell you about his past, or he kind of kept it under wraps?
Nothing. I knew nothing about. So let me back up. I heard, I guess when I was like growing up, maybe I'm going to say around 6 years old or so, I started to understand and kind of watch basketball. Played it as 2-3 years old. We all shoot the ball, give our kids the hoop and that kind of thing. But around that age, I started to understand what basketball, watching it, like I said, and I learned of the Globetrotters. So at that time, we're talking about in the early 70s, when the cartoons came on, the lunch boxes.
That's right. That's right.
And those kinds, the thermoses, and I never forget in grade school, people used to always ask me, like, somehow they found out, and they said, how did where's your father at on the cartoon? I used to come like, Dad, where you at in the cartoon? Like, are you in the cartoon? But that's a whole nother story on how that unfolded. That was way after my father's playing days.
Yeah.
He was actually coaching later on with the Globetrotters. But nevertheless, that's the only way I kind of knew of anything. And then I remember when I became about 10 or 11, he came back to coach. I actually traveled with the Trotters for about 2 months during my summer break. That was an experience. They had me selling programs, halftime. Again, this is the 70s, past my father's era. So that was an experience within itself, riding the bus, seeing how they lived, that kind of thing. So that was kind of exciting. So those are the only experiences I can kind of say that I can kind of remember of really just understanding basketball. And then by the time I got to high school, the Globetrotters would kind of have faded out. Yeah. Now it's the NBA that's, rolling right now. So I'm in college now. I got the picture of Iceman Gervin with 2 balls. I got David Thompson dunking on somebody.
Yo, hold on. I paused you on that, and we're gonna pause you on that one too. You said 2 balls, but that's another thing. Yo, I was just talking about this yesterday, and I got a guest that's coming on soon. Can't let him out the bag yet. That had a lot to do with that. That whole situation with Iceman. I had that same poster too.
Yes, sir.
I had the same poster. Yeah, man, that was crazy. And he was like the first one to kind of introduce everyone to Nikes, like on a real. Even though we saw him, but on like that level, we could play ball. We saw him on tennis players.
Yeah,
but yeah, go ahead, man.
Bank shots, all that. He's the master of the glass.
That's
And then of course now I'm in Philly now. I'm Dr. J. You know what I mean? That's the doc, the afro. What y'all saying? So that was my introduction. And then of course I got to New York, started playing. Then it was, hanging out with all. Then it turned to college. We started watching college ball while we was all up in college. That was really, the twist. And then that's the only connection I really had of my father and basketball, that kind of thing. And I do remember one other incident. I remember being young, riding in the car, and my father was picking up people that, other basketball names you would probably know. And they were talking about how they would never have all 5 blacks on the floor at the same time, or 10 at the same time. And that stuck with me to this very day, to be honest with you.
Do you mind mentioning those players?
To be honest with you, I do remember one was Guy Rogers. Now I want to say the other one was Al Addles. You can look some of these people up, but you got to remember I was young.
Yeah,
they were my uncle. They were my uncles, that that kind of thing.
Right.
So I didn't know who they were.
Yeah, just being a youngster, there for the ride. For those of you probably don't know, here's Guy right here. Yeah. That's him right there.
Yeah. Temple University.
Wow. Big time. That's big time right there. So now, great upbringing, go to college. Where did you get all of this knowledge from? Right? Because when I look at this book, I'm saying to myself, man, his dad must have sat him down and schooled him about everything that was going on, because this book is so detailed and so on point. I'm fact checking everything, and everything is lining up in order. I'm saying, man, he had a cheat code because his dad was right there and gave him all the information.
Yeah. So how that happened was, I just graduated. Following year, I'm getting ready to get my life and try to figure out what I'm going to do. Get my first job and that kind of thing. And my father came to me, and he asked me to help him fill some paperwork out for a pension for the NBA. Another one of his friends, Woody Salisbury, you can look him up. He's 1957 NBA Rookie of the Year. Also played for Philadelphia Warriors. He has a story within himself. But nevertheless, they called him and said they have this pension going around. Now, he brought me the paperwork. It was from the NBA. I know my father played the NBA, but I know he had with the Globetrotters also. So I asked him, I said, does Globetrotters have one also? He said, no, Globetrotters don't have one, but this is something that was created for the guys that played before 1965 in the NBA. So it was like 2 sheets. I can do that.
Right.
Fill that out real quick. And the pension, it was so simple where it stated they were going to give you $100 for every year of service. So technically, filling the paperwork out, my father get $500 a month. So, okay, no problem. It's not a lot, but it's something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So at that point, about 2 weeks later, he gets a denial letter in the mail. So a little upset, he comes to me, he said, listen, they're not going to give me my pension. I'm like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? So I read through it, and the denial was because he didn't play 5 years in the NBA. The pension read that you had to, one of the stipulations of the pension, you had to play at least 5 years. So I start scratching my head. I'm like, wow, guys today don't always even play 5 years. But
that's a fact.
Nevertheless, okay. So I did my research. And this is what kind of spawned the book. But at that time, I got a little rebel in me. So I'm like, wait a minute. you got to explain this further. So I wrote back to the NBA on his behalf. Of course, as when you get the book, you'll see my father didn't have a great education, but he was a very smart man. He could definitely read and write, but some of his writing, it was always hard when he wrote me letters growing up. Like, what does this say? I think he scribbled it just to kind of get through it. But nevertheless, I did all the paperwork for him, you know. So he kept getting these denial letters. And what happened is I found one of the stipulations 5 years. I ended up finding his contract that stated his 5th year within the NBA, because again, not into getting into the long story, but the 5th year he played, they kind of blackballed him because he was one of the trotters.
All right, hold on. Before we get there, because we kind of speeding through this real quick. We kind of speeding through this real quick. For those of you who want the book, I put the link in the chat, and also if it is in the bio on a page on my YouTube page. So please go check it out if you want to go buy the book. Let's support this book. Let's support this brother. Let's support this history. All right. Now, let's go back. Right? Because unlike you, your dad was raised in Louisiana.
That's right.
Right? He was raised in Louisiana during a very, 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 very tough period in America. And I would say most of his life was during a tough period in America, and it's still a tough period. But he grew up in a time, during the Jim Crow era.
Right.
Right. Do you know? Tell us, because I obviously because you wrote the book. Let's tell us about his childhood and then how he moved from Louisiana to Los Angeles or California.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, my father was Franklinton, Louisiana, till he's about 10, 11 years old. And then he moved with his mother died. His father was estranged. Actually, he told me his father lived at the next corner of the next block, but he didn't really associate with him a lot. So he moved to North Hollywood. What happened is that my aunt, Mildred Cole, she got a job as a maid in North Hollywood, and she took my father with her. And that's how he got to North Hollywood. And so that's where my father actually grew up, in North Hollywood. Because at that time, and like I said, in the 30s and 40s, there were a lot of Black families migrating out of the South, going to cities like New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, more or less California. But that's what made my father's story even that much rare. So, and again, I dug all into this is because I start fighting for his pension. And I kept asking him more and more questions about his life. Because again, I don't know how many of us really sit down with our loved ones or elders and ask them about their lives and how they grew up, and just take that kind of time. I kind of kick myself. Wish I would have done it earlier and under different circumstances, but that's how I found out a lot about my father and his life and with the basketball, because I was fighting because I'm asking what year they're saying this year, what did you do this year, Dad? What did you do this year? What year did you graduate? What year did you go to high school? Which year, because those are some of the questions they were kind of asking on this pension form to fill out.
Man, listen, y'all, we're about to get deep, man. So I'm telling you, this is only scratching the surface. I remember growing up playing basketball. I was allowed one pair of sneakers a year, unless I wore it down too much. It got a hole in it. Sometimes we had to put the cardboard in the box. Right? I'm just telling you my situation and what I was allowed as a kid growing up, because I played sports and we played so many sports we would run down our sneakers. Knowing that your dad played barefoot and in California is crazy, because I know the ground was mad hot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when he told you that, did you think he was exaggerating?
I had the things that he was telling me. Before I tell you that, I have to just say this. When I said we grew up a little bit better, but I had cardboard in my sneakers too. I only got one pair. So
Listen,
I just want to make sure it's clear and clear.
no,
that
it was just
I ain't
during that
growing
time.
rich.
The 70s was a tough time period. Yeah, yeah.
Because that's another whole story on how much NBA players were getting paid back then.
That's
That's
a
a
fact.
whole different. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but nevertheless, yeah. When he told me he played barefoot, I couldn't believe what he was telling me, and luckily I still have family members out there, and they collaborated. And that's the other thing I did with this book. Everything my father was telling me, by me graduating, I guess, with a science degree, because English was really my worst subject, I investigated things and I uncovered this history, hidden history. So when he told me that, I just couldn't believe it. And that's when he told me, he said, yeah, because, you know, Aunt Mildred, who was his guardian, like a mother to him, bought him one pair of shoes. And he couldn't play ball in those shoes. Come home, those shoes, she probably worked almost a week for a pair of shoes, back in the era. So he said I had to play barefoot. And he actually got his first pair of shoes. They saw him playing on the court. A coach saw him and saw how good he played and actually bought him a pair of sneakers. Yeah, true story.
Wow. And it probably was a pair of Converses, which was my first pair of sneakers.
Let me tell you what he said. He said, believe it or not, you have more agility when you were playing when I was playing barefoot. And it made me think of those shoes that came out with like that grip. It's almost like they touch each toe, but it's not as rough on your feet. And that's what made me think of that.
Wow. Well, I want to give a big shout out again. My guy Derek Phelps in the building, New York City legend. You know what I'm saying? In the building. Appreciate you, bro. My guy Basil in the building. I think that's my guy Bernard Mitchell from Florida in the building. And he's a basketball junkie as well. He said, wow, more agility, right? You wouldn't think, you wouldn't know. And listen, another thing that people don't know, your father was playing and being grounded at the same time, right? Because now his feet is touching the earth, right? And he probably has way more energy before, but they put us in rubber sneakers, which that's just a whole nother story. So y'all get what I'm going with that, right? Disconnects us from the earth. All right. So he gets a pair of sneakers from the coach. He starts to play. Does this become his high school coach?
It does. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Guy by the name of Coach Lundy.
And where did he play high school ball at?
North Hollywood High. Played in 48 and 49. 1948, 1949. Damn. North Hollywood. Matter of fact, they actually recently marked him as one of the greatest athletes to come out of North Hollywood.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's funny when I was talking to some of his guys out there, they were telling me, because remember, it's Hollywood.
Right.
It's Hollywood kids out there, child actors. So,
wow, that's right.
Like there was the guy, I forgot his name, but he's from, now I'm really going back, that used to watch Adam 12 back in the day, the cop show.
That's a fact.
Yeah, one of those guys was in my father's classroom. And they were just naming all these different people that were in class with my father at that time.
Wow. What an incredible story, man. So let's speed this up a little bit more, right? So your dad is at North Hollywood High, becomes a high school phenom.
Yeah.
He plays what, 2-3 years?
Exactly.
3 years, right? His
Yep.
junior year. Junior year, not even his senior year. Listen to this, y'all. Listen to this. All my basketball heads, listen to this. He went to a major university at the time, Portland University, full scholarship after his junior year. He didn't even graduate high school.
Mm.
This is mind-boggling to me because I went and looked up the NCAA, and they was founded in 1905, bro. 1905. So you mean 1948, 1949, your dad gets to go and play college basketball. They're able to rig his transcript or falsify his transcript to make it seem like he graduated. This is crazy. This is fill us in with the rest, man.
Yeah, they not only made a deal for him, and the way my father explained it to me was that all he knew is that one day he was playing on the court with some guys, and they said, "What college do you go to?" He said, "I don't go to college. I'm in high school." And they went and told their coach, and that evidently their coach had a connection. You know how coaches have connections to Portland. And my father said within a week, they came and spoke to my Aunt Mildred and said, "He's good enough to go." They said, "When you want him to go?" He said, "We need him to go now."
Whoa.
And got him enrolled. Next thing you know, he said he's in University of Portland. All he knew, he was going to college, and that's all she knew. Because again, when you're talking about first generations going to college, that's all that was, was on the mindset at that time. There weren't those options like there are now. So he thought it was going to be a great thing. His aunt thought it was going to be a wonderful thing, and he was off. And now he's in Portland, breaking records. Matter of fact, they retired his number up there, the University of Portland, Portland University.
Wow. And your brother said facts from your big brother, preach, Andy Johnson.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's in the building.
Yeah, so he can attest. He can attest to it. He was named after him.
Yeah. My guy Ayatollah B said his feet touching the actual earth while playing basketball. See now, people are getting this, and it's like it's really hitting them like barefoot. Like we can't even fathom that right now. You get what I'm saying?
Not at all.
And to do it at a high level is crazy. Said Martin Milner, Mark.
Okay.
Who's Marcus Milner?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I guess that's the coach. Was that the coach of the University of Portland?
That I can't remember.
Okay. Your brother, hey Andy, fill us in, put us in the chat. So your brother has a lot of this story as well.
He does, but I think he knows the second level when,
Got you.
Or I say the level before, because he was a little older than me, so he was probably a little around a lot of the guys' names. Like he was around Guy Rogers. I knew of Guy Rogers, and that was Uncle Guy when I was a little guy, but my brother was probably around him more than I was. Woody Salisbury, like I said, Al Adams, all these NBA names.
Oh, he said Adam 12. The Adam 12 guy name was Martin Milner.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Andy. Appreciate you. My guy Ayatollah B says, Mark, sounds like if you speak with the right people, you can have yourself a movie. So I would contact Spike Lee. Look, we gonna spread this out there. Look, he's coming full circle with this right now. This is his first podcast he's done. The book's been out since 2010. You want to spread the book around? The book is in. I got the link is in the chat. So scroll down the chat. You'll see the link, and it's in the bio on my YouTube page. All right, and I'll definitely keep the link out so people can get it, man. This is crazy. He says, Ayatollah B says, I live in Portland now. I want to go see his jersey. Well, you can see his jersey right there. Oh, the jersey that's at University of Portland.
The Portland. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's hanging. I'm not situation, but because I tried to get, that was the other thing. I think my father later on, he would never want to go any place and get honored Like they want him to honor. He said, "I'm not going back to Portland." I didn't understand why. He wants to get honored here. He said, "I don't want to go and get the honor," because I think at that time, a lot of the white players in the NBA, they were honoring them, giving them cars. That was remember corporate America. They get 25 years, they give you a watch. That they would do at the time that when you opened up a bank account, they gave you a toaster. There were times when they corporate gave back a little bit more. So because he never really saw, or he felt as though he should have got something more than he got, so he never wanted to get honored. So I never even made it out to Portland, but I plan to one day.
Yo, Ayatollah, you know what it is. Go check it out and bring us back the report since you right there on the earth right over there in Portland,
Yeah,
man.
let me know.
That'll be dope.
We got the letters, but I haven't been out there.
No doubt. So, goes to University of Portland. He breaks all kind of records. Become a superstar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, in his junior year, correct? Was
Yeah.
his junior year?
Yeah.
He's introduced to Abe Saperstein or his assistant.
What happened is,
there you go.
The way Dad told me, he said they sent a black guy to fool me. And what he did was he said a guy came, said he's from the Globetrotters, and he wanted him to leave school. And they had a game the next night. College game. And my father said, I'm not leaving. So he put out, I can't remember, it was $300 or $500 in ones. And remember, he's come from pitching pennies, and he says he sees all this money. Matter of fact, my father told me when his roommate came in and seen all the money on the bed, they said, "Oh, y'all robbed the bank." Oh man.
And what year was this, so people could get the understanding of how much money $500 was back then?
It was 52, going 52, 53. So my father said, I'll sign anywhere. So he signed and he left. He said later on, the Trotters got in trouble. They had to go pay something to the university because there was money involved back then. We just don't know when and who was changing hands. But nevertheless, that's when he was off to the Globetrotters. So my father said so as soon as he does, he gets out to the Globetrotters, and he's seeing guys that he saw as a youngster. Because remember, the Trotters were the town. Back in those days, there was the Trotters and the Ice Capades. There wasn't all the shows and things going out there at that time. That's what made the Globetrotters so famous. There's a Jet article that sees a kid dribbling a basketball. I can't remember what year, 52, not 1950, I want to say. And he's a cartoon and there's a kid dribbling a basketball. And he says, what are you trying to do? Grow up to be a Globetrotter? So people weren't, at least black kids weren't inspired to, go to the NBA. I believe some white kids probably wanted to be more Globetrotter also. But, so he was off with the Globetrotters. And within, he said about 30, 60 days, they called the draft board on him. And he ended up going to get drafted into the Army. So he's only with the Globetrotters maybe 2 months. And then straight to the Army. And he was stationed out at Fort Ord. And he tells me he was in a sports group. Guys like Ali Madsen, who they played football. They traded 9 players for him. LA, Billy Martin, baseball guy.
Yep.
So it was a special barracks that, special athletes were in there in the Army.
Wow.
He gets a release from the Army, and then now he's back with the Globetrotters. And that he tells a story how everyone in the barracks, well, back in that day, the guys used to say, "I'm with who you play ball? Yeah, I play with the Globetrotters." They would never know because there wasn't TV. You would never know who a Globetrotter was. So he tells a story on the owner of the Globetrotters cut a deal with the Army because the owner of the Globetrotters, Abe Saperstein, had real connections. I found out later on, all those guys got honorable discharges because Globetrotters used to play a lot of games for the Army back in that day. So a lot of connections there. But he said the deal was they played a game at the Army base, and only person suited up was him. So put all those myths aside, and next thing you know, he's back on the road to the Globetrotters.
And here's the note. The Harlem Globetrotters wasn't from Harlem. They was from Chicago. They took the name Harlem Globetrotters because it rang bells in New York City. Harlem was the most popular thing, especially connected with black people all over the world.
Yeah. The
So
Renaissance
go figure
era.
that, right? It started off as a scam.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Never played.
Yeah.
They didn't play. I don't think they played a game they didn't play a game in Harlem until I'm gonna say in the late 50s.
Because back then it was the Harlem Wrens.
So that's a whole nother story, because from the Wrens, then they moved to Dayton, became the Dayton Wrens, and they became part of the NBL. It's just so much basketball history that and again, I know we just to jump off, but we did speak about this coming up. I said, I asked you a question. I said, let me ask you something. It's All-Star Weekend. It's Black History Month. What has the NBA shown anybody about any Black history other than wearing it on their shirt? Google it. Tell me, please. Tell them, call back into your show. Email you, Instagram. Find something that they did. That's why I said it's such a blessing to do this show at this particular time, right after All-Star Weekend. If you watched, that's all I saw.
Brother, I haven't watched a basketball game in over 10 years. I went to a game because I got free tickets, but as far as watching it, television, I may have watched. Let me say, in about 10 years, I may have watched 5 NBA games. Probably not in its entirety. Maybe one in its entirety.
Yeah.
Just so disconnected from the game right now. But this history is so important. So let's go back a little bit. So before we do that, my artist in the building. What up? Let's pay some bills real quick, and we're gonna come right back. All right.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
One of the great things about EEP law is in our community partnerships, the relationships that we build with people who really care about our community, with people who hold high value in giving back, with people who are pillars in their community. Being said, EEP Law is a proud sponsor of Basketball Heads Podcast, the #1 basketball podcast in New York City.
All right, salute to my partners, EEP Law. Yeah, man. So this right here is important, right? So he gets the black guy to go up there, spread the $500 on a bed. Right now, it's a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
And he gets your father to come on board. Your father goes to the Harlem Globetrotters and then had to go to the Army. He fights, goes to the Korean War, but he's not really out there fighting. They got him in a special bunker with all the athletes. And then Abe Saperstein pulls some strings to get him out of the Army, right? So a lot of money is exchanging hands. And you even said back then, when he went to the University of Portland, some money was changing hands back then and people didn't know. See, a lot of people don't understand. Back then, college athletes was getting paid, right? They had the amateur status. I'm get it right now. The amateur status in basketball started a little later. I mean, in sports, in college athletes, right? Started a little later, right? Hold on, because I want to get that right now before we move on. Amateur status 1906. So the definition of amateurism in college sports has changed over time, beginning in NCAA formation in 1906. Uh, but again, there was still certain people getting paid under the table, over the table, because the Globetrotters had to get paid, correct? I mean, the University of Portland had to get paid for the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, again, I don't think money was too much money come my father's way, but those
No, no, of
backdoor
course.
dealings,
That's right.
dealings. I mean, you have to also think about this stuff, and this goes just up into the day. Same thing was going on. They were charging for parking. The hot dogs was costing. So he needed something to drink. Like the concessions were going on. I mean, the high school made money because again, my father was a phenom. So pack the gyms. Same thing I relate in the book. Like LeBron used to pack the gyms. They used to have to change venues so they could see him play. Same thing in Portland. And it goes on and on with even with the Trotters. So yeah, there was a lot of money being exchanged back then.
So now, your dad is traveling all over the world.
Yeah.
With the Trotters.
Yeah.
How is he being treated?
So the best way I explain it is that Abe Saperstein, the owner of the Globetrotters, was a phenomenal gentleman. He took basketball all over the world. I honestly believe to this day he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. If it wasn't for Abe, basketball wouldn't be all over the world. He was a short Russian Jewish individual. Nothing to do with him being short, him being Jewish, him being a Russian immigrant. But what he was a very smart, shrewd businessman. And he treated like any shrewd businessman would treat a commodity. You maximize it. You know, same way corporate America is today. They maximize their profits on their employees. And that's what Abe was doing. It's just that it was that much harsher because the NBA wasn't accepting black ball players. So if you have an All-American coming out of college and you know you can't play in the NBA because there's only a handful. Remember, the NBA started off when they merged together, 32 teams. Then it dropped to 16. So, and then there was that unwritten rule, only 2 black ball players per team that people don't know about. And not all the teams even chose to have black ball players. Because technically, if you do the math, 16 teams times 2, that's 32. So there should be 32 black ball players. But unfortunately, there were only 4 that year. We've heard Chuck Cooper, Sweetwater Clifton, Earl Lloyd, and they always forget my man, Hank Dezzoni, probably because he played with the Tri-City Hawks and that team folded within a year or so. Besides, he was getting, it was too rough. Everyone couldn't handle it back then either, those type of conditions. Like, I don't know how I could handle, living down south in that conditions. A lot of us say that. You see what happened with Emmett. And you have to understand, too, the time period that we're talking about. Remember, Emmett Till's situation happened in 56. We're talking about before that.
Man, this is a rough time. It's a rough time. Your brother said, hope Steph Curry people is watching.
Yeah.
We're going to spread this out. He said he just came out with a T-shirt for Black History Month. A lot of names missing. For those people who don't know, this is the book, mahoganybooks.com. Y'all can buy the book, support this brother, support the story. Let's get the story out there. Yeah, this is a heavy story, man. This is a heavy story. Now, as your dad is playing, right? And again, we want to give props to the Saperstein family because people have to understand the greatest coaches at that time were Jewish coaches. My coach was the Jewish coach in high school, Coach Bobby Hosty, still a great man. And again, you had all these great players that's not playing in the NBA. What do you do with them? What do you do with them? And how do you showcase them to the world?
It was really rough. I'm going to tell you something. There were 4 Black All-American basketball players. First of all, I think when we spoke about this, I kind of say Trotters, because the Globetrotters of today are not the Globetrotters of my father's era. Right. I'll put it that way. Steph Curry, LeBron James, they wouldn't be in the NBA. They'd be playing with the Globetrotters.
That's right.
Just that simple. And it's just as the same way they're going to want their names remembered later on in life. That's the same thing. Those guys, all they wanted to be is recognized back in that era. So I have 4 Black All-Americans. Julius McCoy out of Michigan. You can look all these people up. Julius McCoy out of Michigan, All-American. Wally Choice out of Indiana. I want to say he's the first Black out of Indiana. Because remember, even the white school, the first Blacks that went into the NBA all came from HBCU schools.
That's right.
Okay. Now the white schools are starting to let the Blacks come in, mid-50s. Willie Knowles, UCLA, and we all know Bill Russell, San Francisco. They all got drafted to St. Louis. St. Louis is one of probably the worst teams that didn't want any Blacks on their teams. They all got traded away. Julius McCoy, I think he ended up going to the Eastern League. Wally Choice went to the Globetrotters for a year. Willie Knowles went to New York, and Bill Russell got traded to Boston. So as much as everyone thinks they had control, they didn't really have control of their careers.
A lot of these teams would only draft the guys to cut them, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Because it was, I always ask, how do you cut an All-American? Like that doesn't. Charlie Hoxie out of Niagara, All-American, got cut. Played the year the Globetrotters was like, I can't, can't do it. It's that myth, I think. Another reason, as I was finishing the book and going through the book, I unfortunately lost my father before the book finished. But I had such a connection with all the other guys, and they were giving me the stories of all their stories and kind of what happened to them. And it's really tear-jerking because I like I said, I tried to create this organization for them because a lot of those got no pension whatsoever. I had guys 30 years with the Trotters, nothing. So, but what a lot of people don't understand, the connection of the NBA and the Trotters. They thought the Trotters just played goofball. There was what was called within the Globetrotters the straight men. And the straight men were the guys, the All-Americans coming out that were straight ball players. They had to learn the tricks. So Steph, LeBron, all those guys, they would have had to learn the tricks, what they call reams of the Globetrotters.
Like the N1 players, right?
Twirling the ball on the finger, you get all that. But that's why another reason why I kind of really dug into the book is because I'm thinking, darn, I played basketball growing up. I played later on in life. I'm not saying I was no NBA player, but I played. I was out there, and I knew nothing about this history. So, again, one of the reasons I did this book, I wanted to put some of this inside because all this stuff kind of fell in my lap. To be honest, I didn't go looking for it. I tried to help my father, and this is what it brought me to my father's story and to the rest of these guys' stories. I mean, I have stories where a guy told me his name is George Brown. He played for Minneapolis Lakers. He played 2 games. He told me he was watching those guys. He said, I can kill those guys. Next thing you know, they brought him into the office. They said, you either got 2 choices, go home or go to the Trotters. And he was like, wow, you can look them up. So it was rough for those first Black players in the league, from not being able to score. I tell people all the time.
Yeah, tell that story. Please tell that story, please.
If you go into and again, everything I'm saying is all factual. You can look it up. There was not one Black ball player that had a scoring title before 1960. We knew about Wilt Chamberlain and his 100 points. But other than that, the black guys was relegated to just playing defense and passing. That's what they had. I made mention of Woody Salisbury. They cut him because he said, I'm not passing nothing. I'm passing to the basket. So you got these rebel guys starting to come. Remember, this is before the civil rights. So these guys were so important to the game of taking it all over the world, spreading love and joy, coming back to their neighborhoods, teaching and preaching. That's another thing. This is a family. I can trace all the way back from Bernie Price and those guys that played in the 1940 World Series of basketball to Tiny Archibald. Like, these people came back to their community. Pop Gates came back to their community and taught the next generation. The next Pop Gates, Carl Green, Hoxie, Earl the Pearl, Monroe. Like, they're generational. It's the same way as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it was back then. And I just didn't think this history needed to be lost.
Nah, man, this is crazy, man. This is crazy. My guy said, don't forget Cleo Hill. Who's Cleo Hill?
Man, Cleo Hill. Cleo Hill played with my father at the Philadelphia Tapers. Cleo Hill has to be one of the broke my heart. That you have to understand. I'm sitting down, I'm talking to these guys. Cleo Hill could hit a shot from anywhere.
Mm.
He was the first Michael Jordan.
Mm.
First hook shot anywhere on the court, take you anywhere you want to. And when I first did the book, I'm putting this together. I said, listen, we're gonna go and we're gonna, I'm ready to rumble. I'm in my bag now. And he said, man, that's done and over with. And you could see that they broken from not being able to achieve what they wanted, what they should have achieved. At least be able to play. And I think we were all robbed from that. We were all robbed from that. Wow. Not being able to see them and them not being able to be seen.
Yeah. This is crazy, man.
And that's what made the Globetrotters so special. Because remember, they were the best of the best. They came from everywhere. It wasn't just New York. They sent these guys out as scouts to go get the best of the best. And they put the best together.
Salem State University. Wow.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Basil. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
They look back before him. It was a guy by the name of Jack DeFerris and Carl Green out of New York.
Yes, sir.
They won a 1950. They won a 1950 high school all-star team. And
then when we move further up, that team out in Indiana, Crispus Attucks, who had my guy who was on that team, Robertson, played for Cincinnati.
Oscar
Robertson.
Yeah, he was the first scorer. Yeah, yes. in the 60s. They allowed him the Big O. Him and Elgin Baylor.
Yeah, and they wasn't allowed back then. Your dad and them wasn't allowed to score that many points. They scored too many points. They sat them on a bench or got rid of them.
Yeah. They traded. They traded Woody Salisbury out of Philadelphia Warriors. That's what I'm repping the Warriors hat. Yeah, Philadelphia Warriors. Yeah, they got rid of. They got to go. Can't shoot here. I tell a story. It was going down. Everyone can probably understand this. It was no time left on the clock. They had to take the ball out. They set a guy by the name of Tom Gola on the out with the ball. The play was designed, get it to Wilt or throw it out of bounds. So my father can shoot the ball, play the game. They ended up passing it to him, and they covered Wilt, so he threw the ball out of bounds. And the coach went absolutely crazy. He said, "Why would you do that?" He said, "I'm doing as I told. That's why I'm still in the league." So instead of being able to take the shot,
What?
he threw it out the bounds. Yeah. My father was different. He was real different. Yeah.
Knowing he could have hit that shot.
Easy.
And the guys, the guys didn't waste that many dribbles. They were way more persistent and consistent with their shooting back then than guys are today, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the other thing I just want to interject. Again, they thought the Trotters always played the team. The Trotters played the guys that couldn't get into the league from LA. Those were the sort of quote unquote, they would play straight ball for most of the game, and the last 2 minutes they would go into the reams. That's how all that kind of started as they traveled around the world.
Because they was blowing people out too much.
What was really happening is that the college All-Americans would play against the Globetrotters, top college All-Americans. And then the guys that could play good against the college All-Americans, those are the guys that went into the NBA. White guys, Tom Gola, Paul Arizin, Guy Rogers, because he was a little, he got away from being a little light there. So yeah, he played with the college All-Americans. They played a series of games. They played 12 games, 13 games against the college All-Americans. They toured all around. And then that's why, and again, there were times that the Globetrotters actually played the NBA teams in the league, but they promised Abe the team in the league, and they never gave it to him. So that's why those games stopped in the early 60s.
So let me give y'all a history lesson, right? First of all, when they used to go across the country playing these teams, they used to beat these teams so bad that people were bored of watching them play because they was beating the team so bad. And then you got the black guys beating on the white guys so bad. The white people didn't want to see that happen, right? So the guys had to tell back their game, and this is where the trick started so they could detain them. And now they're having the people who are watching them, mostly white audience or all white audience, they were entertained because the Harlem Globetrotters, these guys were so good, right? They were so good. They was just killing everyone. So this is where the tricks came. And then when they thought that they were all about the tricks, they played that game against the Minneapolis Lakers. And I want you to take it over from here, all right?
Yeah, so again, you're spot on. That's how tricks came in, where they couldn't beat the teams too bad. So until 1948, this was probably one of the only times, other than the World Series of basketball, that this was where the NBA and an all-white team, Minneapolis Lakers, and the Globetrotters played each other, and it was built up. It was a built-up game. You got to understand, we're talking about 48. There was a lot of Jim Crow things going on at that time. So now you have this big game between the all-powerful, worldwide Harlem Globetrotters and the great NBA. And the Globetrotters beat them in that game in 1948 by one shot. A guy by the name Irvin Robinson shot the shot. It was historic. It was almost like it reminds me when I forgot the fighter beat Max Smelling. You know what I mean? That boxing match. So they thought it was a fluke. So they played him again the following year and beat him. But they beat him, I think like 15, 20 points.
Beat them by 20.
Yeah. About 20 points. Yeah, it was a larger margin. And that's what really opened up, where people said, well, why aren't there any black guys in the NBA? And then so happened the following year, the NBA was created from the merger of the BAA and the NBL to create the NBA. And that was the inception of first blacks. And in the back of my book, I show that it wasn't like 4 blacks, 6 blacks. No, that in 1950 there were 4. Then 1951 it was like 3. Then they let 2 more in, then he let 1 more in. Then it, that's how it kind of progressed until, 1960 and after. So
Now, how much did these stories have an effect on you and your outlook on a sport that you grew up loving?
well, I think it was more hurtful. Listen, we've all heard the stories that the school fixed the grades. It's one thing to see it. We all heard, didn't go to class, and okay, we heard that they didn't get the money. Okay, but to see and speak to these guys that kind of lived it, and them not being able to have an outlet to tell it, at least to get it off their chest. Listen, I it's funny. It's almost like I took on their pain while listening to these stories, because again, I played, but I'm looking at, like, I'll look at a NBA, like you, not the whole game, I'll bits and pieces, but I'll see a move from Steph Curry, knowing that Steph Curry is from the Warriors. Steph Curry knows nothing about these first black guys that played with the Warriors, because again, like you said, Philadelphia went to San Francisco, and then they moved to Golden State and became the Golden State Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
So he should know about these things. And at least it's almost no different. Listen, they're no different than the Tuskegee Airmen did their thing. Remember, these Globetrotters went all over the world. They were the best of the best. I tell people, anybody that went to Winston-Salem State, the first time someone heard of Winston-Salem State was overseas was because of a Harlem Globetrotter that went there, Carl Green, because their names and their schools. That's why I don't look at them as Globetrotters. I don't look at them as NBA players. I look at them as the first blacks that went around the world, because they didn't. Yes, they had the Globetrotter uniform, but they was from your neighborhood. They was from Harlem. They was from Chicago. They was from LA. They went to HBCU schools. Some of y'all went to HBCU schools. They went to your school. You should know about them. If you like basketball, at least if you're interested in a little bit of history, at least put something on for these guys. That's why I said, I listen, last weekend they put on Saturday Night Live, 50 years, right? I'm looking at some of them sketches. I'm like, yo, they was really funny back then. There's some. I was watching a guy, George Carlin. I don't think he was that funny growing up, but back then I'm looking at him on Saturday Night Live. I'm like, yo, he was a funny dude,
Right?
Like, for real. So they're just as important. Just because they were born 50 years. I asked a guy, Bob Showboat Hall. You see him in a lot of the old Globetrotter. If you look up the black and white Globetrotter movies, see him, all the people doing the moves. That's not Mel Lark Lemon. That's Bob Showboat Hall. They said the tricks that he did, just unbelievable. But he played ball too. I asked him, I said, what would you, on an interview I had with him, I said, what would you tell, because this was some years ago, he's rest in peace. I said, what would you tell, I think I said Charles Barkley or LeBron James if you were to meet them? He said, I'm going to tell you one thing. They came along at the right time. I had no other words after that, because he's right. But he said we came along at the wrong time, which ended that bookmark. Because you have to understand, he said, I played 30 years with the Harlem Globetrotters. On the 31st year, they sent me home. I said, what did you do? He said, it's kind of hard changing things after you've been doing it for 30 years. I had to go get a job. He said, every Globetrotter had to go get a job after you're done. He came home. Can you imagine that feeling? You're one of the hottest teams around the world, and then you have to go home and work in the bakery. What if LeBron and them had to go home and work at the, the grocery store? That's why it's so important for them to hear these stories, just so they have a real understanding. Because nobody on TV has this understanding. None of those commentators. I go one for one with all the commentators on this history of basketball. And that's NBA and Globetrotter. I had no choice. I was doing it for the love. My father, these gentlemen, and the game. That's if you love the game.
Yeah. I told the B said your father was a catalyst for change in basketball. Your brother said, tell him about What's My Line.
Yeah. Anybody can go. Everybody remembers that game show, What's My Line?
Yeah.
Go to it. Go to Google and go and punch it in. Harlem Globetrotters, What's My Line?
Uh-huh.
If you pull it up, there's guys on that. There's guys on there. Roman Turman, Willie Gardner, Clarence Wilson, Charlie Hoxie, Leon Hillard, Woody Salisbury, and my father, and everybody knows Mellark Lemon. But you know what? Everyone lights up and says, oh, I know Mellark Lemon, but you never heard of these other guys.
Wow.
Here's the twist with this. Let me give you the twist. The twist is this. If you look at that show and you Google every one of those guys on there, they all had a serious basketball. Whether it was they were all everything in high school or all everything in college. You know the only one that doesn't have one?
Mellark
Lemon. He played, but he wasn't the all-star.
Where did he play? He played college ball?
Yeah, he played college. He was from Wilmington, North Carolina. So I forgot the name of his college off the top of my head. But that's where he was from.
So why were they pushing him to the forefront? Because he was one of the most famous ones. That was the first Harlem Globetrotter I knew.
Because by design, you pay the top person and everybody else. See, they can't pay everybody Mellark Lemon money. They can't pay everybody else Goose Tatum money. You understand? They can't pay everybody LeBron money. You understand what I'm saying? They put one in the forefront and let the other ones follow.
Yeah, it said Mellark Lemon was in the fist that saved Pittsburgh. I remember that.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about when we're talking about basketball activists.
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna go watch that that episode again.
Yeah. Google their names. I tell them to rewind this, watch the show again. Rewind and get those names. And ask about all of them. Look up all of them.
Got you. So now your dad was sold to the NBA, correct?
That's correct.
He got a portion of the money. And
well, that's what the title said. That's what the paper said. When I
hold on, what?
Yeah, that's what if you get the book, I
remember seeing it. Yeah.
There's an article that says and Warriors buy Andy from Trotters. And the first thing I'm thinking, how does that happen?
Wow. Wow.
How does that work? As a title. So, and then again, my father told me about the rules of the NBA. Like I said, don't shoot, don't do this, don't do that. And, at that time he became, the person that followed the rules, but he made a mark. Like I'll give you an example. There's a guy by the name of Dolph Schayes.
Dolph Schayes, yes.
Yeah, you can look him up. He's
he played with DeWitt Clinton High School from New York. Yeah.
One of the greatest 50 basketball players.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Yeah.
My father they put my father on him that night. Guess how many points he had?
How many?
0. No points. Yeah. They put an article. Andy did the job on Dolph Schayes. And don't quote me. It may have been 1 point. I think he got a foul shot or something. But as as you know, knowing this type of stuff about my father, that's why, you know, people think it's just because he's my father, and it is, but he was that guy. Like everyone I meet, like I actually had the opportunity to meet Dolph Shays at the NBA All-Star. I met Dolph Shays, and he says two quick stories. He says, "You're Andy Johnson's son?" He said, "Man, I think I still have some black and blue marks on me."
Wow.
Every place I went, it was almost like he was there before I knew I was going to go there. He knew where I was going before I even got there. So he told me that. And then I met the great Earl Lloyd, and I walked up to him. I said, "How you doing, Mr. Lloyd?" Met him at All-Star Weekend. I said, "How you doing, Mr. Lloyd?" And he says, "How you doing, sir?" Very nice. He's from down south. Has real heavy accent. Tennessee, I want to say. And I said, "Listen, I wrote this. I gave him a copy of my book. I said, here you go. I wrote this book about my father. I don't know if you know him or not, or remember him playing with him." I showed him the book. He looked at the book, the cover, and by design, my father didn't smile much.
Right.
And he said, "Ooh, Andy Johnson. I know who he is." And he has his happy face on.
Wow.
And then he turned to his wife, "Do you know who this is?" His wife's like, I don't know if I know you. You know what I mean? So yeah, he was really nice guy, man. Really nice guy. I told you when I was selling this book, I was everywhere. I was in arenas, I was in bars, I was on the park. When I gave him that book, the following year, I'm down at the big, is it the MEAC conference? And so I'm vending, I'm selling the book. I don't have enough money to be on the first floor with, big stand. I just have my little table. I'm on the third floor. Him and his wife, evidently, because he went to HBCU, they come back. Those stars come back.
Yeah.
He came and found me on the third floor, man. He walked all the way. This elderly gentleman walked all the way up to find me. And he was like, "I heard you was here. I just wanted to come see you." So those type of experiences are things that I would have never been able to experience not writing this book.
So when you talk about your father was put on an auction block 3 times in his career, explain those 3 times.
High school to college to the Trotters, and the Trotters to the NBA. He had no control. It wasn't, I don't want to play here. I'm gonna take this. Nah. You went where you was told to go. That's it. Now, could he have said, "No, I'm not going there"? Choices is real limited. And you got to understand, this is the first go around. They don't know the tricks and the games that came along later on in life. It's like the music industry. Good friend of mine, Daryl DLB. He's he has his own stories.
Rocking it.
Yes, right. That's right. First pioneers. They didn't fully understand what was going on.
Even Kumo D went to Westbury.
Facts, yeah.
Right? He got beat for like 1.5 million and didn't even know. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. So it's the first generation so you can't forget about those guys.
Nah.
Can't forget about those guys that paved the way. History is important. That's what I'm saying. If SNL goes back 50 years, why can't we?
Now that's so true.
And even 50 years before that, because I can tell the story about Bernie Price and those first guys, Inman Jackson. Listen, in writing this book, I got a little angry at Abe because I'm like, "Dad, Abe, you ain't have to do him like that." You know what I mean? You could have done something better, Abe. You know, but
It
on the
was a
same
different
token,
time, right?
it was a. You have to understand, Abe. Listen, the Globetrotters started in 1926, turned into as a Savoy Big Five. The Globetrotters turned in 1927, right? That whole time, you got to understand that they've been surviving. They went through the Great Depression. They was trying to get some bread, much less go see a basketball game. You understand what I'm saying? So he learned how to pinch and make the way. He played with those guys. Like sometimes they only have 4 on the road, and he was the 5th man. So he did his time. Like he split the gate. But later on in his life, as people get more and more money, I'm putting more time in, so I get the bigger pot. So, it wasn't until I did the research and dug deep down. I have a copy of Abe Saperstein's will. In his will, he left money to a guy, Bernie Price. I forgot what the percentage is. I don't know if I should even say it, but the fact of the matter is, Abe wasn't prejudiced. He was just a good, shrewd businessman, maximizing his profits off the racism in our country. If the NBA would have allowed black ball players to go in, he probably wouldn't have made so much, or would have gave back a little bit more, should I say.
My guy Basil Kennedy said, did you mention Marcus Haynes?
One of the greats. Marcus, listen, I spoke to Marcus before he passed. He really loved the fact that I was trying to keep this history going. But you have to understand what Marcus was. Marcus Haynes only played with the Globetrotters like 3 or 4 years. People don't understand that, because Marcus saw immediately, like, wait a minute, they paying the guys traveling more than, and we the stars. The white guys that's traveling and we're playing against are getting more money.
The generals.
Well, before they were generals, they were some more names previously before.
Oh, okay.
But the general.
Said your brother say he played 2 years.
2 years. Marcus didn't play. Marcus quit. Goose Tatum quit. And this isn't. And again, these are all things that we know, because this book, Basketball Slave, is the only book that's been written from the inside out. Most books, all the books written by the Harlem Globetrotters have been done by sports writers. And if there are some guys that did their own personal stories, they don't have everyone's story, because, again, my mother being who she was, a social worker, my father being a goodwill ambassador all over the world, coming back to the local playgrounds in Philadelphia. Listen, when I was selling the book, Black Jesus, Monroe, Earl the Pearl.
Yeah.
He said to me, I'm doing a book signing. He said, by the time he walked up to me, he said, I want 2 cases. I said, what? He said, because your father was one of the only pros that came back to the neighborhood and, held camps and those kinds of things. Remember, he's from Philadelphia.
That's a fact.
So, it's a very important story. It's a connection with basketball up to this very day. There's a whole lot more history that I have, and I see people have said, yes, I should speak to Spike Lee. I should speak to, that would the only thing is, even with Spike, definitely one of the greats, but there was a documentary that was done by On the Shoulders of Giants about the Wrens. And in the beginning of that documentary, Marcus was in there. And they kind of tried to play the Globetrotters like they was just, not really them guys. Because you have to understand, in that 60, 70 era, even the NAACP looked at it as like they were like being the buffoons, like the Hattie McDaniels,
right?
Those kind of, But a lot of people don't understand that's how the entrance was made. She wasn't acting like that when she got the award. That was a character. And that's what they didn't understand. So there was a lot of little people were starting to kind of stray away from the Globetrotters. Besides, now we're talking about 60s, 70s, where now they're able to go into the ABA and, you know, then again, going after that, the NBA, after the merger.
Man, look, so much history, brother. Is that the jersey and the uniform that your dad actually wore?
It is. Yep, it is. Now that's a later uniform, but
still got the small shorts. They still all the same. You know what I'm saying?
You see them, right?
Facts. Look like boxes, my G. Look like boxes.
Yeah, they around the world, man. They went around the world.
Now, who were some of the people who helped you get his pension straight, and were you satisfied with the outcome?
So there were people like Jerry Saperstein, Abe Saperstein's son, that wrote a letter for me on the behalf of my father, who knew the story of what was going on back then. Probably the next, oh yeah, I see somebody said Pablo Robinson. Yeah, 70s New York guy, Pablo.
Gary Bird, appreciate you. Chuck Cooper, CK.
Yeah, Boston. Yeah, I did make mention he's one of the first blacks in the NBA. He went to Boston. Chuck Cooper.
They lied and said Dad couldn't play in the NBA because he couldn't remember the plays. According to Google, it's a travesty what he went through.
Yeah, there's a whole article that Chicago says what happened to Andy Johnson because they were looking for him the following year. As a matter of fact, I even spoke to a guy who reached out to me and said, white guy. He said he tells a phenomenal story. I have an email from him, and he says, as a little boy, we used to sneak in because by the time he went to Chicago, they weren't selling out, so he could get down close to the players. And Andy and Woody put me on the bench, and the coach looked at him like they was crazy, but they wasn't going to say nothing to Andy and Woody. Woody's from Compton, by the way, Salisbury. And he tells a story on how nice they were to him, and he anticipated seeing Andy play the next year, but he was gone. And like I said, there's an article, and I actually probably part 2 of this book on why there wasn't an all-black team in the NBA in the early 50s. And I mean, I have documentation that shows what happened to backdoor dealings. So the plot thickens as I move forward.
I know you was talking about, I didn't mean to cut you off. You was talking about how Abe Saperstein's son kind of helped you out.
I'm sorry, yeah, Abe Saperstein. There was, forgot this woman's she worked in the NBA office at the time. Few people like that, but I think it was more I was, at that point, I was very respectful but firm with the NBA as I wrote, because I didn't get lawyers and all that. We didn't even, it was none of that. It was just me corresponding back and forth to the NBA. And when that happened, finally, I was fed up. And I wrote a kind of little scathing letter to them. I'm like, wait a minute. You're fighting my father for $500 a month. You're a multi-billion-dollar industry. And you guys didn't even allow blacks in the league. Like, how is that even? How you should give him double. And that was my feelings towards it, and so they end up giving him his pension, but I fought the NBA for 2 years. And when I say fight, I'm talking about correspondence back and forth with letters, phone calls, visits, and finally they gave him his pension, but they didn't give him his retroactive pension. So what happened is that
Explain the retroactive part so people understand.
Yeah. So if you start fighting for a pension that's been going on that conveniently not everyone heard about, because the pension had been going on for several years, it's kind of my father jumped in at the end of the game. And so again, the way this pension kind of started was, I'm sorry, I lost my train. Would you ask me? I have so much history coming at me.
No, what I was saying is the retroactive part.
Yeah, the retroactive. So I start fighting for the pension. It took me 2 years for them to release the pension. So if you start fighting for it in 87, my father didn't get it until 89, that kind of thing. So when he got it, when he finally got it, they didn't give him the money that he's been fighting for the 2 years. They just started it, which was roughly about 30 or 40,000, something like that, and you know how you get a piece of paper and you crumble it up and you open it back up again?
Yeah.
And you crumble it up and you open it back up again.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at that paper, you can't throw it away because it's important. Well, my father came to see me and he brings out the paper and he gives me his transcript. He says, I can't believe they did this to me. Like I had to tell him, like, you didn't know, you were a kid, you in he was referring to his transcript, because you can actually see the cross out marks in the transcript. I put it in the book.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Where it's crossed out, where it's like, no, we're gonna keep him playing just so we can continue using him, so we can continue getting this money.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? So when that happened, I saw it in his face. He was like, I can't believe I'm dealing with this. The NBA doesn't want to give me my retro. So I said, check this out, Dad. This is what we're gonna do. Tomorrow, I'm gonna get on the phone. I'm gonna call Portland. I'm gonna ask him, what's your policy? And explain this transcript to me, these cross out, these mark-ins, and what they did. And I'm gonna call the NBA office. So he said, fine. Went to sleep. Next morning, he was supposed to meet me at 8:00. Now, those guys in that era, they clockwork. My father was, you tell him 8:00, he's sitting there at 6:30 drinking coffee, waiting on me. That's the way that usually went. You know what I mean? Didn't show up. So at that point, I said, wow, where's he at? Calling his phone, not answering. So now I'm in panic mode after 3 or 4 hours. I jump in the car. He lived about an hour and 15 minutes away. I think I got there in like 30. I pulled up. I see his car. I look, the door is open. It was hot. So screen door open. I go open the door. He's laying on the ground.
Wow.
And that's how I found my father.
Wow.
So at that point, I'm in shock because we planned the day out. He know what we got to get done. So it must have been, he had to have it on his mind, right? So the phone rings. It was a good friend of his called, Green, New York. I told him, he just, grown man cry, hung up. So after I, composed, got everything, went through the motions, he died on a holiday weekend. The pension money had to be in before a certain date. Like when you get pensions, they got to pay you before, they can't pay you after.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think at this time they went up a couple dollars, so it was $600-700. So I get a call that Tuesday from the NBA office, pension office. They called to give me their condolences. Said, thank you very much. I appreciate it. He said, by the way, since your father died before the end of the month, can you send that money back?
What?
Yeah, true story. Can you send that $600-700 back?
Wow.
So I told them, get yours like Tyson got theirs. And I hung up.
That is crazy, bro.
Yeah, it's hurtful. So, like I said, there's a
Man.
lot of different parts to the story. This isn't some history I uncovered somewhere. This is my history, is our history. It connects to all of us.
Man, this hits home, man. This hits home. Again, y'all see it on the screen, Basketball Slave. Buy the book. Buy the book, support it. Let's get this story out there. It's already out there already, but we need everybody to hear this story. We need everybody to get involved. And let's get this story out there, man. Let's shake some doors, man. I know it's a lot of people that's going to see this. I know it's a lot of people that's going to see that have a lot of connections, that somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. This movie need to be made. Now, I know most people want to do the happy-go-lucky Globetrotter movie, but this is the inside of the inside. So you're going to get the full movie, but story about the man, right? Because there was some things that was done to him. He was exploited in such a cruel way from colleges and professional teams. They messed his transcript up so bad he couldn't even go back to his university and get a job.
Nope.
Explain that, bro.
Yeah. So a lot of professional basketball players, after they finish, they go back and, again, especially in that era, it was to teach younger youth, whether it's be coaching, whether it's volunteering, something. That's why basketball is just so intricate, woven into our fabric. You know what I mean? And I remember my father, at the time when I just finished, he was still looking for little stuff to do here and there. I mean, he had worked for Disney, he had bounced around different jobs, and it's one of those things. And that's why even just to jump after he left the NBA, they pretty much blackballed him from the NBA again because of the Globetrotter situation. But he went and played in the Eastern League, and he led the Eastern League to world, titles in the Eastern League. He was number one player for the next, several years into the 70s, that kind of thing. It's like I said, it's a lot, man. It's a whole lot. And you said a movie. It's almost, to be honest with you, between my father, I know the guys after. You have to understand, I traveled with those guys in the 70s, so I know those guys, and they're getting up in age now. I just saw a few of them recently, and then I've done so much history and research. I go all the way back to the 20s, 26 guys. So it should really be like almost a series, to be honest with you.
That's true. Let's. Hey, 50, you're doing some great things, baby. Time to break some ground.
Yeah, man.
This is real right here, man. I think people will be very entertained, man. Brother, we've been on this mission for a long time. I would love to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And we can do a part 2, man, for sure.
Absolutely. Because I really got to tell the story on really the intricate part how the Globetrotters, like today, the Globetrotters over here and the NBA is over here. Yep. That's not the way it was. I got a picture of Nikita Khrushchev with picture Putin and the president of the NBA hanging out. I got that picture from back then. Nikita Khrushchev and Abe Saperstein hanging out, and NBA commissioner at the time. His name leaves me for a moment, but yeah.
They know, and that game between the Minneapolis Lakers and the Globetrotters, you can find on YouTube. They got some clips of that. How did you put this book together? Like you kind of explained it, but this is the first book you ever wrote, right? And the only book, correct?
Yes, the only. Again, I say anything's possible with the Almighty, because English was my worst subject in school, to be honest with you. So, I think I still had dreams after I graduated that I didn't graduate because of English class. That's how bad it was. So again, I think it was just the research. And what happened is I actually got a young lady. I was working as a director of a youth program in Philadelphia. That another reason why, if you look at the book, I made the book as an easy read because I wanted the kids to. I wanted a book that it reads like a picture book.
It does. It does. It
So
does.
I wanted the book as an easy read. I don't know how many times people say, "Man, I haven't read a book in years." I mean, it was easy. I'm like, yeah, because I put the pictures that went with the words and the captions and that kind of thing. So I wanted, an easy read, read for the kids. Again, while I was doing it, I was telling you I was a director. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought again, man. I got what was I telling you before that? I'm sorry.
No. You talking about? I asked you how you put the book together, and you was just telling
And I
me.
was right. I was saying
put
I had
the
at
pictures with
that
the.
time. I'm sorry. Yep. So at that time, I did the book. I wrote everything out, and I hired a co-author to help me with the book. But what happened is that I was so busy wrapped up with the kids. I wrote it out, gave it to her so she can put the English and the grammar and the work things to make more sense in writer style. But what happened is that after I read it, it didn't have no heart and soul into it because it wasn't her. She wasn't feeling what I was feeling. She wasn't taking those rides to New York to the NBA office to say, get this man $500 a month. She didn't. So I took it back and I just said, you know what, let me quit my job. No, at that time I was working 2 jobs, writing the book on the weekends at night, and I got it done. And at that point, it had the heart and soul into it. So that's why I said, people, when you read the book, you understand where I'm coming from in a lot of those, instances. From even just listen, I put a chapter about my mom in the book. Let me tell you something. I was selling the book. There were so many women buying the book, because not only one, they wanted to give it to their sons, but they saw the chapter I put in about my mom. Like, behind every great man, come on now. Like, there's a lot of great women out there. And I tell that story, and I tell that what they were going through and what it was like. My father, they used to, like bicker over money. He told me one time they were going to play Boston. He didn't even know he was in the game till the second half because he's thinking about how I'm going to pay the light bill coming home, that kind of thing. So he said, imagine it was hard for me to play free. He said, today they're allowed to play free. We weren't allowed to play free. We had to play worrying about how we was. Listen, my father was taking the bus to the games. Can you imagine, one of those guys, Ant-Man, taking the bus to in the Minnesota cold? Like, so it was a whole different dynamic. That's why it's just so important for these guys just to understand. I don't think the NBA has given them a platform to stand on, other than wearing a shirt.
And it's so crazy because the Harlem Globetrotters used to open up for the NBA. But then once they finish, everybody would leave. So the NBA said, you know what? We'll play first. You guys close. So everybody stay in the audience and wait and at least watch us play because they really wasn't paying attention to the NBA. They wanted to watch the Harlem Globetrotters. Salute to your brother, Andy Johnson. I just want to make sure we get that because that was very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They were the double-headed. Listen, I have the advertisement that shows Harlem Globetrotters and then NBA game as a double-header, New York, Philadelphia underneath. I'm like, wow, how does that work?
If you got these articles, what we can do is the next podcast, right?
Yes.
We can have the articles attached to the story.
Sure. Absolutely.
And it'll be like a pictorial, right? Like
absolutely. Make it a lot more visual.
There you go.
They have me sitting there boring. I don't hope I'm not boring y'all.
Nah, this is great. Trust me. Trust me. You seeing how many people it's not that many people in here right now on the live, but I'm telling you, so many people going to watch this and it's going to spread like wildfire. Trust me. The good ones always do.
Yeah.
The good ones always do. Now, my guy Ayatollah Beats, he said my book is on the way. Just ordered it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Can't wait to
Appreciate
read
it.
it.
Appreciate
You
it.
know what I'm saying? Sinead Jack, excuse me, hope I got the name right. It says big NIL move, Jada being paid around $5,000 to represent the Shukti brand and transfer to Cardoza. Huh? How you gonna transfer to Cardoza? Jada? Explain that to me. Because I don't understand how he's gonna transfer to Cardoza. He's at Jefferson, the number one school in the city. But Jada Swan is the number one player in the city. Him and his
Okay.
backcourt partner Connor Spradley, but Jada Swan is definitely that one. He's only a junior. And
Okay.
check out my page. You can see him play. Like
Okay.
I got all the high school games up there, so you can check out the games. That's for anybody out there who is not living in New York. They want to get the kind of feel of what's going on in New York. Check out my page, NYC Basketball History. And again, check out the interviews. I got interviews with Charlie Scott. I got interviews with Tiny Archibald. I got interviews with Ricky Sobers. I got interviews with Ross Strickland, Kenny Anderson, Skip to my Lou. You name them. So many. Derek Chivas. You know what I'm saying? My guy Dave Britton. You know, we go on and go on and on with so many players, so many people that's on here. It's crazy. A lot of NBA players, a lot of street ball legends. Rumor heard. Okay, got you. But he's not transferring to Cardozo. Trust me. I know that for sure. Thank you, Mark. I really, truly looking forward to reading the book. Just ordered it. Ayatollah Beats.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my brother.
At the game meal was hot dogs and leftover popcorn for the concession stands. We couldn't go to dinner afterwards. We wasn't welcome, but just entertain them. Woo!
Yeah.
So he's being paid to represent the brand, and part contract is to go to Cardozo. Oh no, that's not happening. Yeah, that's definitely not happening. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you for helping us out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but $5,000 ain't no money. He's gonna get paid way more than that when he go to college. Trust me. Listen, brother, we getting down to that time, man, and I just want to say I appreciate you, brother. I definitely want to do a part 2.
Yes. No
Seriously.
problem.
Just
No
hit me
problem.
up, be like, yo, Pooh, I got the pictures ready, and we're gonna make this happen, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more, like I said, show and tell. And listen, I really appreciate you even taking. First of all, this whole platform is unbelievable, man. I'm sorry, I'm just getting turned on by being turned on, but now I'm on. So you got somebody else, man. You know, and I appreciate your audience. You know, the questions. You know, like I said, one thing about me, if you throw something at me, I definitely can catch it. You know, so maybe next time if you guys want to do some history on your own and come back at me, and you know, we can make this like a quiz thing, so I can get those real questions answered that are just not out there.
No doubt, appreciate you, my guy, Chris Haney. What in the building? Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Always, you know, my love, brother, my love, always. John Alisi, thank you. He's probably coming from Italy, man.
Thank you.
I don't know what that means, but we appreciate you. Oh, word, you heard that too? Listen, I got the number, so you know, I got the direct number to the whole family. So, but listen, brother, we appreciate you. Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing this history. We definitely want to do a part 2. We could do it in, you know, next month if you want to close out Black History Month. Depending on how fast you get it, let me know. Yeah, I'm always open because we got some more interviews to do. We got some more people in line, but I would definitely make a special day for you so we can do a part 2 for sure.
Yeah, again, appreciate it. And I think what may be a good idea, since, you know, we'll stay in the basketball state of mind, you know, maybe doing something around playoffs, you know, in
No
that time
doubt.
frame.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
You know, because we got college, you know, NCAA, you know.
That's right. March Madness, baby,
we got
coming
March
up.
Madness. You know,
For
they need
sure.
some they need some more Black history around these epic events. That's all this money is getting transferred.
That's fact. That's a fact. Now listen, yo, Polo, man, we appreciate you, man. Definitely gonna do a part 2, man. Thank you to your family, your wife, your brother, your whole family, man. Children, everyone. Keep the blessings going and keep your dad name alive, man. And we're gonna help you do it.
I appreciate it, man. Peace and love to you and your audience, man.
No doubt. Our closing remarks, stick around, and we're gonna get out of here. Well, listen, y'all. The game of basketball has brought us so much joy, a lot of entertainment. But in those dark rooms and those dark days in the beginning, it was a hard, hard, hard time. A lot of disappointing moments, a lot of heartache. A lot of guys are not here to see the fruits of the NBA or weren't able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. A lot of guys was used up mentally and physically. Our guest tonight, he took on his father's fight. Did it the right way. He knocked on so many doors, kicked down some too. With this book, I want us to realize what we have a chance to do. We have a chance to make history all over again. Let's go out and support this book, spread this message, spread this live, and make sure we keep Mr. Andy Johnson's name and legacy alive. You know what we do all the time. Basketball heads. I'm your host, Glenn Pooh Harding. I know my motto is the official home for New York City basketball, but we are the official home for basketball all over the world. With saying that, I'm about to sign off. I'd like to thank all of my people in the chat, all the people across the world that's going to watch this. Spread this message. Let's get this out to some people because I think this would be a great hit series. We need to tell these stories. Again, Basketball Slave is for sale right now. Please cop it. Please buy it. Please support it. Thank you. And to that, we're about to be out of here. Pay some more bills and be ghosts. Peace. What's up, world? It's your boy, Glenn Pooh Harding. We in Brooklyn. Best Star, that is. At the world's famous Tom, Dick, and Harry's. Y'all know what it is, man.
So crazy, yeah. It's what I live for. Crazy. It's so real. Fuck 'em.
I've been making moves on a poppy. You with it, then copy. I'll be a doormat, cause your format is sloppy. And he's so amazing. Angels is hating. Dudes losing patience. Fuck 'em, keep waiting. Tard is the gift.
709 Broadway. You're gonna go check out my guy, Benny Blanco. The #1 tattoo gallery in New York City. You heard? Let's go upstairs and check it out. vintage art everywhere. Vintage toys, vintage games. Look at that. That Pac-Man right here. Locked and loaded. Y'all come through. Y'all know what it is. Shadow Gallery 718. It's your boy Glenn Pooh Harding. Basketball Heads. Back at you. Peace.
Hey NSC, I hope you all are doing well, but I do have one question. Did you know these were lock extensions? Well, maybe it's two questions, because did you know if you give me 2 inches of hair, I could get hair all the way down your back? Yeah. Human hair lock extensions, where you could have them installed, you could have them colored, you could keep them forever, or you could keep them until the time is right, where you're just like, you know what? I just want to live my free lock journey with my hair that has been locked, because that's what my client did right here. Link is in the bio. We're waiting for you. See you soon.
Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Yeah. You have just stepped out into the world of chaos, where everybody goes hard. Come on. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Or go home. Never back down. You gotta hold your own. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. East Coast. Go hard. West Coast. Go hard. Midwest. Go hard. Dirty. Happy up, everybody. Get online, buy your tickets, cause the game about to start.